Hi, I'm Renita Francois, and I'm back with my husband McEvans for another mentorship virtual panel, MVP. And we're joined by some of our very close friends, the Goodens. And today we're going to be talking balancing the household when both parents have full-time careers. So does a career need to be on hold in order for the team to win? And if so, whose? Let's talk about it.
Not necessarily. I think what's important, or what's most important, is that both partners in a relationship, their careers or the demands of their careers are complementary, right? Like, if one person has a very demanding job where they don't have a lot of flexibility and they have to be in the office or traveling for very long hours or periods of time, and taking care of responsibilities at home, and all the other parts that come in terms of running a family. On the other end of that, if there are two people who have to be on the road a lot or are traveling or have very demanding careers,
Right.
then perhaps one has to, take I don't want to say back seat, but
You gotta
one
make
has to
some
focus.
decisions.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
And it requires a lot of coordination, I think is the key. A lot of coordination, communication. I think we're in a situation where we don't both have careers that are always on the go at the same time, which is a good thing, and that works for us. If we both were investment bankers or if we were both consultants, it might be a different story. I don't know that one of us would have to put our career on pause, but one of us would have to figure out how we're going to do said career at the same time as the other partner. And I don't think it always has to be the woman. I think it comes down to a number of factors. Who's the most senior, who has the most tenure, who's making the most money, and also just passion, like who has the most passion for it. I think that matters too. So
To that point,
communication.
to that point about careers, who's doing what, can we actually just go around the table and give a background on like our overall bio, what we're doing now, what brought us there to that road, just to give some insight to our young mentees out there?
Sure, yes. So I'm new in my role, exciting. I am a VP of Talent and Diversity. So I work for a financial services firm. I focus on increasing the representation, specifically of underrepresented minorities in financial services, particularly Black Americans. So I'm lucky in that I'm a relationship manager for our Black Heritage Affinity. And then in addition, also working to increase diversity across the company that we work for. I went to business school with Renita.
And so did John.
And so did John. But yeah, so that's honestly how I got there and worked my behind off. I've been in HR for now a little over 12 years,
Oh, wow.
not counting the time I went away to business school and did a dual degree, Master's in Industrial Labor Relations.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Boss.
Yes.
You're welcome.
I'm an investment banker. Specifically, I work for an M&A boutique investment banking firm covering the technology and
Sorry,
software
M&A
sectors.
for anybody that's not familiar
That's
with
mergers and acquisitions. So
Okay.
like one company buying another, or a company selling itself to another company, or a merger of equals. Those type of transactions are what I typically advise on, both on the buy side and sell side, as well as other capital raising activities. The way I like to explain it, what an investment banker does, or someone who works in M&A, I'm like a real estate agent, but for companies or for businesses.
I
So
like that.
Excellent.
I've been doing this for going on 5 years now, post-business school. Prior to that, I didn't work in finance at all. I was an engineer by trade. I worked in the telecom sector, where I used to design cell phone towers. So a much different world than where I sit now.
All right, now it's my turn. So I guess I am what you would call a government official, or at least that's what they say when I'm quoted in the newspaper. I started out before business school as a very frontline staff member working in a public service organization. So I've worked for federally funded housing programs before. I've worked in juvenile justice and family court, and now I am working for a mayoral entity here in the city of New York. It's a very fast-paced and dynamic job. I did not start off as the head honcho, so to speak. I started out in a supporting role and was ultimately promoted into this job, and it's very different. It's different when the buck stops with you and you're the person that's making the decisions. Oftentimes those decisions come down to the ones that I have to make in my home, and really we like to talk about ourselves as sort of a CEO and COO of our household. McEvans, fortunately for us, is very strategic and and visionary, and that's one of the things that attracted me to him. And I'm very operations minded. How are we going to get from A to B? What do we need to do to make that work? Where are the kids going? What are we having for dinner? Who's paying for what? That is very much so the way that I think, and it benefits me in the career front as well as the home front, because in my job I'm managing fast moving parts and very expensive projects across city agencies throughout New York City, and it's a very challenging role for someone who is a parent to young children, and so we have to work together very often to figure out who's going to do what, because my role can be very responsive to things that happen in the public realm, and sometimes with a moment's notice I have to make a decision about being somewhere across town with a few hours to make accommodations for my children or whatever our plans were for the evening. So it really requires a supporting teammate at times and a leader at other times, and I'm grateful to have that.
Wow. Okay. What's left to cover? So for those of you guys unfamiliar with me, my name is McEvans Francois, and I have a total of 12 years in financial services. That encompasses financial planning and also my current role around the fintech space, which has been for about the last decade. And specifically fintech being a buzzword these days, if we were to unpack that, that's where financial data marries software and applications. So you can think about the suite of offerings that a company like an IHS Markit has, a Salesforce, a Bloomberg, Thomson & Reuters, something along those lines. So we also serve the client base that includes what John does, some of his colleagues, and also the institutions of which Kelly's a part of. I think if I could share something, or actually just go back to a couple of things that were said here, because there were a couple of good key points. One other thing I'd actually want to spend some time on, an interesting point that you guys all pretty much hit, was whether one person in the overall marriage or couple relationship needs to pause for the other one to move forward. I don't necessarily think that that's the sequence, or I'd like to best describe, a point in our lives that actually made our relationship even stronger that relates to that. When these folks met each other in business school, she went away to business school and spent 2 strong years building up herself, getting the skill set that she needed, fine-tuning her overall offering as a person to, come back and demand a much better salary, put our family in a better position. And at the same time, I was able to be, head down to New York City, taking on those additional projects, staying and slaving in those extra hours. So that helped my career propel. That helped me see some upward mobility as a result of all the work that I put in. And at the same time, she came back and we were much stronger as a couple. And I think our careers both benefited from that as well.
I think in terms of whether or not someone's career needs to be on hold, I think in an ideal world we would say, each person, that doesn't have to happen all the time, and it depends on what type of career you have, like in the situation of Kelli and John, where it's complementary. But there are times when somebody is going to have to sit it out. Like that is just the reality of it. And I think that the important part of that is, if you're that person that's sitting it out, what do you do in the meantime to keep your skills sharp, to put yourself in a better position when it's your time to go? Because if one person is going to be going away to school like I was doing, that is technically time out. You're not grinding in a job, but that is a moment where the other person can say, I'm going to hit the gas, I'm going to accelerate, I'm going to do everything I can to build and advance in my career, while you're doing what you need to do to make yourself a stronger candidate for whatever you decide to do when you're out of school. And then when you graduate, you already know, because I'm sure a lot of you are probably at the point where you're considering an advanced degree, or maybe you're new to an advanced degree or plan to pursue one. When you get to that point, in the period after school, then it's going to be your time to grind. Right. And so sometimes it will ebb and flow that way. Sometimes you both will be going at one time, and that's going to be the time that you have to take a hard look at your relationship, because those challenges, the challenge of not being able to be together all the time, not being able to find time for each other, being in high intensity or high stress environments, environments, that takes a toll on the relationship.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and no relationship, whether that be a friendship, whether it be romantic or otherwise, even with family, can thrive without good communication. And so when you're stressed for whatever reason, and our careers tend to put a lot of stress on us in many cases, communication is one of those things that fails. And so, you know, I think it's more so about taking a realistic look at what your situation is and going into it without the blinders of saying, yeah, we can do this, we both can work, we both can excel, we both just, you need to map out and understand what all the possibilities are. Sometimes, you know, my husband gets annoyed by the fact that I am the queen of scenarios and options and examples because I like to run it through and play it out in many ways. If you guys have seen Avengers Infinity War, I'm like Doctor Strange. I'm there like, you know, processing what all of the different outcomes could be. And that's what we have to take time to do. You know, nothing good happens without planning. You have to make a plan. It's like that the age old saying, you know, if you plan to fail, if you fail to plan to fail, you know. And then that goes into this as well.
In my defense, though, dating Doctor Strange and being at a restaurant and trying to get through your menu items, you go through each scenario possible. No, in all seriousness, no.
Then what happens? Then what?
Broccoli, it doesn't really go with French fries. Maybe you want to go with the mashed potatoes.
That's not a scenario.
I usually feel bad for the server that's like, can I ask you a question? I'm like, oh, here it starts. But in all seriousness, though, you know, when we think about it, I'd like to take it back to the home and just put that question out there. How would you guys say that generational change has affected your dynamic today and how your house runs?
I'll let you start with that one.
Smart man.
So I think it's two things. Yes, it is generational change, but also as I look at our household, I just don't have the time that my mom or her mom, and, you know, God bless my mom who was a single mom, and she had a lot on her plate. But she had a job where she could leave at 5 and be like, all right, well, now I'm done. I'm literally done. Don't call me. You can't, because they didn't have cell phones like that. Don't email me after work. Like, I'm constantly on email, or if I come home, put the girls to bed, then I'm back online, working until 11 o'clock. So I just don't have the capacity to do everything that my mom, my grandmother, my great-grandmother did for their household. While the man just came home, patted the girls on the head, and just walked back to his room and, you know, did whatever he wanted to do. Or, you know, smoked a cigar. I don't know what they did back in the day, but, you know, like that gender role. I just don't have that capacity to do because of the role that I have. And God bless my husband. He is of the mindset that he does whatever needs to be done. And I'm thankful for it. And that's the kind of partner I needed without even knowing that I needed that when I was looking for a partner, because we couldn't do what we do without him stepping in, to give the girls a bath, to put one of the girls down to bed, to feed not only the girls but all of us some days, and just make it work. Like, we truly are partners, and we even had a conversation about that early on. Like, it can't just be I come home, cook dinner, put the girls down to bed, because, again, he's a banker. So when we first got married, he was working until 2, 3, 4 a.m. I can't do that all the time. Like, you're going to have to step in and do something. Even if you come home at 3 or 4 in the morning from working, then that means in the morning you get the girls up, or a girl at the time, and you take her to school, because I now need to be at work by 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. So for me, it's twofold. One is generational change in that my husband wants to be involved with his children. And 2, it's also women are more involved in the workplace. We have more demanding jobs that require us to give more. Women weren't as involved in the workforce until recently. And the jobs that they had, not all, some, at least in my family, they didn't have jobs that required them to work throughout the night or stay late or travel that we do today. So for me, it's also the job that demands that we have different gender roles.
Yeah, I mean, you took a lot of the wind out of my sails. No, not at all. But kind of going back to being complementary, not only in career, but in terms of what you all do for each other in the house, right? Like, like you said, it can't be mom does all the cooking and cleaning or whatever, and dad just comes home and goes to sleep or what have you. Like, you can't say this is my man's work, this is the woman's work, right? Like, I come in and I help wherever I can.
Yeah.
You come in when I can't be there, when I have to step out, or when I'm working, and take care of that end as well. And that goes back to communication. That goes back to being on the same page and setting expectations, right? Everybody knows that, like, this is a team sport, right? Like, and I like your analogy of we're the CEO and COO of this company, and that's how I look at it too. Like, we're in business together, right? It sounds unromantic or what have you, but it's true, right? Like, we're in the business of raising a family, right? Like, we're talking about finances, we're talking about operations, marketing, strategy. So
holy merger matrimony.
Exactly. Not too many mergers.
He wants to live.
Yes. But we're in the business of raising a family.